to the Perfectly Imperfect podcast, where perfectly imperfect people join together to converse about God and life experiences, how life affects our day-to-day, whether that be negatively or positively, while also including how our faith pieces us together and heals us in the process, no matter how flawed you are. Thanks, guys, for joining us on another episode. Today we have Jelem.
Hi, everyone.
Jelem, do you want to give us a small introduction to who you are?
Yeah, of course. Small introduction. Well, my name is Jelem. Was born in the Philippines, moved to Canada when I was 8, and then lived here ever since. Just finished school. About to graduate next month, so that's exciting. And yeah, that's pretty much me.
Nice. How are you feeling about today's episode?
Actually really good. I thought, like, you sent me the list of topics, right?
Mm-hmm.
And really made me think of which one I really want to do. And I guess this one really kind of resonated with me.
Yeah, I get that. So our topic is going to be pressures of everyday life. And I think a lot of people our age can relate to that. Because I know I can for sure. So, to get into it, what can we consider to be pressures of everyday life?
There's a lot.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I can just list everything down. I actually wrote everything down. Well, okay, for me, as of right now, I guess school was one. Another thing is work.
Mm-hmm.
Personal connections with other people. And then most importantly, it's church as well. So, and then as I'm growing older, kind of establishing my own individuality and kind of like my own financial burdens is kind of included into that mix. So just growing up as well is another pressure that I kind of think that all of us are experiencing right now. And so it's just a whole jumble of a lot of things that we're experiencing, and it's just kind of everything at once.
Yeah. No, I see where you're coming from. I know for a fact when I was still at York University, like, the exams for me was like a very new thing for me, because I for my first year, because it just all piled up, and like I never experienced stress like that before. That was crazy. But for the most part, the pressure we tend to add on to ourselves is living up to our own and other people's expectations. Why do we fall into that trap, and how can we escape that?
I think just naturally human beings like to compare ourselves with other people. I don't want to admit it, but I do compare myself with other people, right? I think it's just natural for us to compare. And that's where, I don't think comparing is inherently bad. I think it's how we take those comparisons to ourselves kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And how we kind of either diminish our self-esteem or kind of like make us feel a bit like not as good as other people. I know that especially at school, I kind of compare myself with other people as well, right? Like, oh, I didn't do as well as my friend, or even at church. Oh, look at so and so. Like, I guess he has his life more intact than I do, and I think that Satan wants us to feel that way, to feel little and kind of just make us more discouraged as we already are. Makes us kind of forget that we have our own kind of strengths, but he wants us to focus on our weaknesses so he can kind of manipulate us better and then make us more of a downfall for us, right?
Yeah. This past week I kind of caught myself comparing myself to somebody, but in a negative way, and like I was able to like become aware of what I was doing, and in that I just like felt very like I wasn't happy with what I was doing and how I was thinking and just how I was comparing myself and all these kinds of things. And I remember something that I used to do to kind of like make me get out of that negativity mindset was that I would assure myself that this isn't me talking, this is the adversary talking. And when I saw it in that way, for me it was easier to see things in a positive light. Yeah.
No, yeah, I like that. And I think that when we think about our own experiences, like we don't have similar experiences. None of us do. And I think when we think about our experiences and everything that we've experienced so far, like we're not supposed to be similar.
Yeah.
We're supposed to be different. And I think that's kind of lost in when we're comparing ourselves with others, is that we're always trying to be someone else when we're actually just ourselves. And God wants us to be ourselves and to be reach our full potential, to be like him.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's something very important to remember, that we were created uniquely, you know, like we're all different, similar but different. So why do we fall into discouragement, especially when we come to a point where even the smallest of things can bring us to our limit?
That's a great question. I think our generation especially, like we've grown up to be like, we want things fast. We want things done as quickly as possible, and we tend not to wait a bit. I mean, I'm kind of guilty of this as well. And I think because of that mindset or kind of thing that we grew up like wanting things fast, I think that for me at least, that makes me feel discouraged a bit more, because if I don't see the results of the things I'm doing, I'm like, wow, is it still happening? Am I still doing anything? And I think that with that, I feel more discouraged because I'm not seeing the result as quickly as I want to. So I'm trying to get better at that, because, you know, everything that we work for takes time. And everything that has consistency, has commitment, will yield results. And I think that's something that in this generation, I'm thinking, my opinion is that we're lacking, kind of thing.
Yeah, I see what you mean. Because I also get discouraged with the same thing. Like, I just want it now and I want results now.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's just because we're impatient people, I guess. I think that's something we just have to work on. But yeah, discouragement is just like, just wanting everything now instead of just like consistently doing something repetitively and then just seeing that result. Yeah.
Great change really takes time, and it's a real test of patience, which is necessary to have. So do you think we often suppress the weight of the pressures we carry?
Yes, I think so. I think for me, myself, I don't really like sharing anything with other people, especially even with my own family. Like, it's hard for me to kind of share, okay, these are the pressures I'm kind of feeling, these are the difficulties I'm kind of facing, these are challenges I'm facing right now. Even within my own family, it's hard for me to kind of share those feelings. And so I think it also goes the same way with other people, especially with friends or people that they don't know. Like just sharing something that's so personal, I guess, and I guess bottling that up kind of adds to that weight already. I remember in my mission, I struggled with, I went to Argentina.
Yeah.
And so I had to learn a new language and everything, Spanish. And then, so I was sent to an area where it was just me and my companion, nobody else. It was like isolated from the whole mission. So here I was, a new missionary, learning the language, feeling homesick, and I didn't share anything with my companion. Well, looking back, I should have. I mean, I was like bottling up like homesickness, just challenging of learning the language and like adjusting to a new culture. Every pressure that I experienced in that first transfer, wow, kind of made me realize wow, I need to go home kind of thing. Like I want to go home. And just looking back, like if I would have shared that with my companion, I think it would have been easier for me to know that, okay, he's been here also. He's experienced the same things I've experienced kind of thing. And it's also another shoulder for me to kind of lean on.
Yeah.
And so I think we do bottle up those emotions and kind of it weighs on us. But I think a way to kind of relieve that is just to share with somebody, even if it's something, right? Something little.
Yeah. Yeah, that, I think, because especially in the past years, I've always struggled doing that too. Like opening up with certain things and not bottling up things. And when I actually took a chance to let go of those things and not really suppress so much the pressures, it made everything lighter. It made life lighter and made just going, like, hard things would still happen and all that kind of stuff, but like it would be easier to face it because it wouldn't be always so heavy on the shoulders, you know.
That's why I think that's why I think we have families here on earth. When we have friends, when we have a savior, it's so that we're not shouldering everything by ourselves. The example of have you seen Prince of Egypt?
Yes, but it's blurry.
Okay. There was a time where Moses kind of just delivered the people out of Egypt, and they were going to the Promised Land. And then he was holding like this kind of, I can't remember what it's called, that instrument where you just put on your shoulder.
Oh, yeah.
And it's like two handles and everything for the bucket, or just make it easier to kind of hold it. That just makes me realize that like everything is weighed. Like we have things to help us balance everything out, but it's always really easy to carry it if there's two people.
Yeah. What I find really cool is how, like, in the gospel, it's always teaching us how to kind of just let ourselves go to Christ, because he of all people knows what it's like to walk alone and to hold all kinds of struggles and all those kinds of things. And they, like, in church, they always teach us that he's always there for you, and he's always there to take upon him our struggles and to walk with us. And I think that's something really cool for us to always remember. And I think that's why we have his atonement, especially when we go through hard things and the weight is just too heavy. He's there to just lift it off of our backs in a way. So how can we well, we we answered this like to avoid suppressing them, to just open up to somebody. But so do you think pressures of everyday life depend on age, young or old?
I think the types of pressures depend on age. I guess when we were kids, like the pressure there is like, which toy should I want?
Yeah.
Now that we're kind of like finishing up schooling or still in school, is like what happens next after school. And then if you're an adult, like, okay, so what happens if I don't get a job? What happens to my family? In my parents' situation, they're kind of older now. Like, what's going to happen after they retire, right? I think age does contribute to pressures, but different pressures kind of categorize age. And then for, I guess, our age group, it's more of a societal pressure as well. It deals more with image, more so about our future as well, and just like keeping up with the image that we want to be looked at. I think so, more so in our generation.
Yeah, I see what you mean. The pressures are different with age, and I do like how you pointed out how there's societal pressures, especially when it comes to image and stuff. I think all of us can relate to that in the sense of how we are being perceived. And I've even seen it with people like that I've met from my life, like where they care so much about how they look, for example, at church.
Yeah, that's a big thing.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess I've seen people who are like, oh, I gotta be like this good, perfect example at church, or like kind of just keeping up with the image.
Yeah.
I've seen that. And so it just kind of like, it's not being true to ourselves, but it's also like, why do we do that, right? Why do we keep up with that? Is it because of the church culture that we live in? Is it because we're afraid of being judged?
Yeah.
Like that, those questions kind of just run in my head. Like, why do we kind of keep up an image, especially for our church, where we're supposed to be kind of working on ourselves to be better?
Yeah. Also comes into play like humility, because when we are vain like that, like that's where pride comes in. And I also see like when you also have that kind of mentality, like unfortunately people start to like kind of have competition with that too. And which isn't good, but I think some of us tend to like do that every now and then. But it's also a lesson, whether you're the one doing it or you're the one just seeing from the sidelines, I guess. Because it puts things into perspective, and it also makes you question like your character and like, what am I really doing, and all these kinds of things. Because I don't think we realize until later on that it not only just like affects you, but it will affect even the whole ward.
Yeah.
Like your community. Yeah.
No, you're right. I mean, and I'm not sure if it's because of the way we kind of expect things from other people also kind of contribute to that, or the way that kind of we think that people are expecting of us, right? That contributes to like, oh, I gotta be kind of like perfect. But no, I'm not quite sure. You know what? I think that's a good question to just think about.
Yeah. So to connect with the next question, it's like, do you ever feel some religious pressures in your day-to-day?
Oh, yes. Of course. So I'm the first counselor in the bishopric, so that's an added pressure right there. Not only from stake leaders, but my friends, the ward, God, and basically you're just like the example, right? I mean, I don't like in Canada, well, I guess in Ontario, there's not much YSA in the bishopric.
Yeah.
So I guess this is the first time we've ever had YSA in the bishopric. And kind of just people just looking at me up in the stand is just kind of like, wow. Before I was called in the bishopric, I kind of just wore, a white shirt without a tie. And then got in the bishopric, and the next, as I got a change like that. So that for me was a pressure in itself, because that was just like, wow, I have to change so that I can not only represent the church, but Jesus Christ as well. And that's like, wow.
Yeah. Man, I can see what you mean. That is a heavy pressure. I think about, because like, I remember when that happened, and it was new to all of us because we've never had.
Yeah. I heard the gasp. They called my name. I was like, oh.
Oh man, that was fun. But yeah, to think like, to be in your position, like for myself, I don't know how I'd be able to do that too.
Yeah.
But
and then not only is like the kind of like being an example of pressure, but also the responsibilities and duties with that calling. I mean, I kind of experienced it when I was, elders quorum president or ward mission leader. It's just, with work, with school, and then with these other responsibilities of helping other people, it kind of just, there was a time where we were just like, wow, I just can't. Like, there was a time where I was just like burnt out. And I was just like, I can't. I don't want to do this anymore.
yeah.
I don't want to. Like, I just focus on one thing and one thing only, so I can just stay calm and not like panic. And so it's just having those responsibilities and just trying to find the way to balance everything out was one thing I needed to learn in order to kind of be more efficient, but kind of not be burnt out. Kind of prioritize the things that I need to do.
So how did you how did you learn to balance it out and not get to a point where you're always burnt out?
I like to write things down. I mean, right now you see that I have a notebook and everything with notes down. Like, I write things down every time I think of something. Like, I write down the things that I have to do, especially with school, with everything. I like to make a list and see what I need to prioritize and then do things that way.
Yeah.
And I think I learned that on the mission as well. Just writing things down, writing down what we have to do. I guess that just kind of stuck with me. And I'm also a visual learner, so I like to see things, what I need to do. So prioritization is one thing that I really, really, I guess, rely on a lot, especially now.
Yeah.
And kind of see what item on my list needs more of my time.
Yeah. No, I've heard that's very effective. I've been trying to do that, but I I'm just such a forgetful person, which would help so much that I would do that. But yeah, I think that helps a lot, and I can see how that can like help you out in terms of balancing. So I'm not sure if you made a point on this already, but how can we if we fall into the trap of getting burnt out and all that kind of stuff, how can we get out
of it?
Yeah.
I remember when I was burnt out, I needed to take a step back, kind of, I guess we could say self-meditate or self-reflect on the things that's most important to you. And I think that was when I also kind of relied more on God, just to help me realize, okay, so I have so many things going on. I have so many things happening. Like, I need help.
Yeah.
Right? And I also think that during that time, I should have reached out to someone as well, like we were talking about earlier. But no, that was time I was just kind of just self-reflecting. I was like, okay, so if I'm burnt out, like, what do I need to do to not be burnt out? What do I need to do to kind of make everything not as tough or not as overwhelming?
Yeah.
And during that meditation or self-reflectivity is like, okay, when I started making what I need to do first. And I think that prayer to God also helped, because it made me realize that sometimes things are so mundane that we kind of just worry about over little things.
Yeah.
But it just made me realize that, wow, even with those things, God is always with us and always trying to help us. And even the things that we kind of feel that's so tough to do, He's always finding a way for us to kind of make sure that we're successful at it. And I think with that kind of helped me out of the burnout, out of just like, wow, seeing that I can do things and seeing things that and seeing the things that I have like written down or kind of mentally noted down on my head to do kind of just shorten, because I'm doing stuff like simple stuff.
Yeah.
And I think also is just like doing things one day by day, right? Taking things one step at a time. I think for me it was like I was taking on so many things at once that was trying to do everything at once.
Yeah.
And I think just taking one thing at a time helps out with kind of tackling the bigger problem or the bigger challenge.
Oh yeah, that really helps. So how do monetary issues add to the pressures of everyday life? For example, when all your friends want to hang out or go on a trip.
Oh yeah. My friend group likes to travel.
Yeah.
I'm a student. I don't like over the summer. I do work full time, but it pays okay over the summer, but I don't make that much money as of right now. So it adds a lot of pressure. I mean, you want to do things with your friends. You want to buy things that you want. Sometimes it's like, wow. Sometimes even like the things that you need, you can't even pay for.
Yeah.
In that sense, like, financial pressure does add a lot of things in my life, especially with tuition costs.
Oh yeah.
Especially with textbooks and everything like that. It's hard. And especially like I don't earn that much, as I said, but like especially paying tithing on top of that, where I can see like, oh, that could have been used for something else. I've had that mindset before as well, where it's like, wow, that $100 could have been gone to something, gone to food.
Yeah.
But then I remember my parents when we first came here. I know that they had financial issues because we came here, immigrated to Canada, and we lived in my aunt's cramped basement. All 6 of us.
Oh man.
So my parents, like, I guess Canada didn't recognize their experiences work-wise or their schooling, so they have to go to school again here.
Oh man.
So imagine that, raising my siblings and I in a cramped basement. And so financial things weren't as good. But I always see them paying their tithing. And that kind of just helped me gain a testimony that even if things are kind of not as good, like paying our tithing does bring blessings. Like, we never ran out of food. We always had a roof over our heads. We always had things that we wanted. And so I think that was a blessing of tithing. And that kind of just made me realize that, yeah, there's a lot of financial pressures right now. But if I pay my tithe, there is a blessing associated with it, especially if I'm needing something.
No, yeah, I think that's really cool. Just like a thought came, like it's cool that in any aspect of pressure that we have, the Lord is always there to provide a solution for us. And I think it's really cool because, like, we can't always rely on someone.
Yeah.
Like, worldly wise, but we can always rely on Him. And He may not take away exactly the problem, but
yeah,
He'll be there to bless us in any way, or walk with us, make the load lighter.
Yeah, I like that point. I mean, yeah, like I guess I knew it, but I didn't realize until you said it, right? And it just makes me like realize that God is in every aspect of our life. In every challenge, in every pressure, like He's always there to kind of help us out. So I think that's a really, really great point. It's something that we kind of take advantage, like, I guess, don't think as much of, that He's always there for us.
Yeah. And I think that's another reason why when we hear the prayers and the sacramental prayers, like, all He asks us to do is to remember Him. Like, that's one of the things that He asks us to do. And it's really important to always remember Him. Because like I mentioned, I'm really forgetful, and sometimes you remember later on and you're like, oh wow, I wish I didn't forget that.
Yeah. And there are times where just like I just relied on my own self. Like, I guess the very, very basic example is like essays. So I had to write lots of essays. I remember I had to write an essay where it was like a really tough topic to write about because I did not know what I needed to write on. And so I just kind of just wrote it. And like I got a decent mark, but it was like not the mark I was expecting. And then come next year, I also had another essay to write with another topic. But this time I included God. Where it's like, please, okay, I'm trying to get a good mark for this class. Just help me, right? I think that asking is what really helped with my essay, because after I said that, I kind of thought about it and ideas just started pouring in my head. And I was like, wow, imagine if I did that last year. Like, I could have gotten the mark that I wanted, but like, it just makes me realize that we can do stuff on our own, but with God, there's so much more that we can do.
Yeah, that's so cool. Like, it reminds me of this, one of my favorite scriptures. I forgot where it is, but it's in the Bible, and it's like, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. And yeah, we can do all things with Him by our side. So, this question, I think we've already like mentioned it earlier, but why is asking for help so necessary? Just to kind of like reiterate, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, we already said a lot of things about asking for help, but I think another point is that God wants us also to ask for help. We've already talked about why it's important, but I think just reaching out, God wants us to do that as well, to make sure that we're not alone.
Mm-hmm.
I think I was reading one of a talk by Elder Russell and Ballard.
Mm-hmm.
He was talking, it was like a old talk back in 1987. And he was talking about the pressures of life, actually. I was kind of reading this talk beforehand, just to prepare for this.
Mm-hmm.
And he was giving suggestions of how we can be able to handle everyday life or the pressures of him. And one of it was asking for help, cultivating relationships.
Mm.
And I think asking for help kind of goes in hand with that cultivation of relationships. It makes us want to be heard, but also allows us to be helped.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people don't want help because they don't know how to ask for it.
Yeah.
And so if we kind of reach out, people know that we need help. How would they know if we don't reach out?
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that's why God wants us to reach out, because sometimes that help is through other people. And he blesses us by through other people.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I really like what you said, how he blesses us through other people. Because I've definitely had experiences where an answer to my prayer was really what someone like came to help me with, or something they said, or advice or anything. So, like with all these pressures, how has it added to your growth in terms of self-improvement?
I think it helped me gain experience, first of all, in knowing that, okay, like for example, this thing with this thing, I kind of know what to do. Especially with the burnout. Like, I experienced that more so when I was like I was quorum president. And if I didn't experience that, I don't think I would have been able to survive my calling as of right now. So I think those experiences that we gained from experiencing the pressures of everyday life is a way of, making our foundation, but learning from them. And I think, like, God wants us to learn from them. I know he wants us to learn from them so we can become better. And when we learn from them, we become better people, but also become better disciples of Jesus Christ. And we can not only like become better people, but we can also help other people as well. Just kind of navigate everyday life.
Yeah.
I'm trying to, I'm going to go into teacher's college to become a teacher, right? And so I think all the experiences I've experienced so far kind of has helped me gain understanding of youth and teenagers and what they're going through.
Yeah.
And I think that's helped me, kind of shape who I want to become as a teacher, to kind of help out that younger generation.
Oh yeah, that's really cool. Yeah, I think for myself as well, like, despite how stressful it can be to have to be pressured, or to have these pressures, whether they're from ourselves or other people, in a sense, they really do force us to grow, and it does become something that will benefit us in the long run. Whether we don't see it now, we'll see it eventually.
Yeah, that's so true. I mean, I think this is one of the times where like, oh, the pressures of future, like, oh, okay, everything that's going on right now, like, I guess because we expect everything so quick, like, okay, so how is this gonna help me?
Mm-hmm.
But I think we're gonna see it after, like, after a few years, we'll see, oh, wow, like that thing that I went through kind of did really help me,
Mm-hmm.
you know, become what I am today.
Mm-hmm. For sure. So before we come to a close, is there anything you'd like to say that you didn't get to touch on that you want to say?
I think that we kind of talked about everything. I mean, we talked about God being involved in our lives.
Mm-hmm.
We did talk about, you know, the adversary kind of making us feel a little.
Mm-hmm.
But I think just to kind of just highlight that, like, the adversary doesn't want us to feel happy, doesn't want to feel accomplished.
Yeah.
I think he's trying so hard, especially in this generation,
Mm-hmm.
to make us feel so bad. And it's so disheartening.
Yeah.
And it happens to everybody. There's a quote, if I can't, from the talk, if I can read it out loud. It says, Satan is always working to destroy our testimonies, but he will not have the power to tempt or disrupt us beyond our strength to resist when we are studying the gospel and living its commandments. And that just made me reflect on, even if Satan is tempting us, we always have the power to overcome our challenges or pressures. Like, we have the ability to overcome everything that's thrown at us.
Mm-hmm.
And it's because we are children of God. And it's because we have his power and because we have his help.
Yeah.
And I think that's something that we kind of forget. But yeah, I think it's just kind of wrapping it up is just, yeah, we're children of God. I mean, that's a great thing. So yeah.
No, yeah. I love that because it's so true. We forget that we're children of a God. Like, that says something. So, Jelem, thanks for being on this episode.
Thank you for having me.
I loved talking about this topic with you. It was a great conversation.
It was great. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, no problem. And I hope we can have you for another episode in the future.
Sounds good.
Okay, cool. But other than that, for everyone else that's listening, please make sure to come back every week for a new episode. You can always find us on Spotify. You can find us on YouTube and Apple Podcasts. Thank you for listening.